The ideas that gave birth to our nation are the ideas that our nation is resistant to right now, and we should talk about that all the time.
In a world where narratives are shaped by corporations and gatekeepers, independent voices matter more than ever. Badlands Media brings together citizen journalists, researchers, and independent thinkers.
The truth is triggering.
Question the narrative. Explore the facts.
It's authenticity, courage, resilience.
Search for the truth others won't.
It's not about being first or being right.
The information war is changing.
It's about being authentic.
Embrace the friction.
Embrace the friction.
Shut the f*** up.
Authentically antagonizing. Join the movement.
I'm going to say how I feel.
Follow Badlands Media.
This is about the future.
The Badlands. What are the Badlands? Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you led the cat up to the top of the building and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like over-capitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well-organized and well-funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
Echoes carried on the wind. We stepped into a moment where a nation would begin. Powder smoke and rising banners, voices ringing through the flame. We rode the currents of tomorrow, found the dawn of freedom's flame. Raise the flame of revolution, let the old world hear us roar. Freedom rides on every heartbeat, marching louder than before. From the Delaware to glory, soft disclosure fans the flame.
All right. Wow. I forgot to have that going. Good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily, the last show where this country will be less than a quarter millennial.
There you go.
So there we go. How you doing this morning, brother?
It's real, man. I'm good. And that beautiful song that you and Zach are responsible for playing on that massive stage while Zach's knees are in, like on fire. Yeah, and Ash is just rocking away on the drums. That gets me pumped up, you know.
Don't forget Ash with that incredible hair, man.
Oh yeah, I can't wait till she does that IRL.
Yeah, we've been talking about it. She's been trying to get in touch with some people in the chat that said they can do that to her hair.
Oh yeah,
so we might see that at Gart Vegas.
Ash doesn't know how to do the 1980s heavy metal tease.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Feathering.
I was gonna try and do it, but doesn't work out for me.
Well, you've got that jacket, and that jacket is louder than any hair could be.
Yeah, I wore this at Deadwood for the
sure did.
VIP dinner. I had a whole suit. I got it for $6, dude. It's probably made in China.
That's fantastic. I had to go to a disco 70s themed birthday party last year, and I obviously don't own any clothes that would be appropriate for that. So I had to go on Amazon and buy a disco suit, and it was like gold and black checkers. It looked okay, but gosh, it's the worst quality piece of clothing I've ever seen in my life. And it's amazing the sorts of suits you can get for under $50.
Yep. Steve Cross says, come on, frizz your hair, dude. What hair? I'm bald.
Bro, if you like teased out your beard and so it was just shooting out, fantastic.
Oh, I can do that.
I can
do that. Yeah, that's no problem.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Welcome to the show. Let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors. And there really isn't a whole lot to talk about. So, we got a couple clips. We got Chris here. So Chris has some expertise in some of these areas that we'll talk about today.
Gosh, I hope so. Now that you're building me up.
I'm building you up, dude. We'll just say it has a lot to do with us. There's a lot of Hollywood culture stuff that we can get into. But yeah, let's check out our sponsors, folks.
What up, Badlanders? Are you ready to rock something new in 2026? Well, as always, we got you covered with the Rise Badlands Native Collection. Built from the rich tones and rugged terrain of the Dakotas, equal parts beautiful and brutal. Old roots, new vibe. Whether you got gators in your backyard or you have to take a bush plane to the post office, Badlanders are worldwide. Different dirt, same tribe. Speaking of different dirt, the ghost of base Patrick Henry designed a plan for the border wall that he actually sent to the White House. It's friggin' hilarious. Now you can get it on a shirt, hoodie, and more. And don't forget, every order throws fuel on the fire of the Made in USA parallel economy. So grab something now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
All right. Badlandsmedia.tv/rise. They've got the badass ghost shirt. I wore that one as well at GART. Purchased that shirt. I love that shirt. And yeah, you're supporting an awesome duo who supports Badlands as well. So there you go. And then let's talk about our friends over at Tamarack Gardens.
3 boys taught me 2 things. Summer is an adventure and bugs are relentless. As an herbalist, I know you don't need harsh chemicals to protect your family. Here at Tamarack Garden, we've got you covered with natural sunscreen, mosquito and tick repellent that's even safe for your pets, a salve to draw out bug bites, and soothing sunburn cream, all made with the power of plants. Because we think summer memories should last longer than the bug bites. Tamarack Garden, protect your family naturally and eat your weeds.
All right. Had a great time hanging out with Michelle and Rick at Badland, at GART in Deadwood. Rick was my golf partner. Heard John was talking trash about that the other day. And
really?
Yeah,
well,
Rick,
that's very rude of him.
Yeah, well, he was saying that Rick had to carry our team, and maybe he did a little bit. Maybe he had some great shots. He had some really good shots, but overall, just we couldn't put it together, man. We missed like 7 4-foot putts, man, in a scramble. That's unheard of. You can't do that. We just sucked. Could not putt.
Well, we had a good time watching the World Cup that evening, and we were having a great time all night. And then I had stepped away for 2 seconds, walked back, and I was like, oh, it's like the 97th minute. I guess it's going to be a tie. And I walk over 5 seconds later. Wait, who was that even? I didn't remember. There you go. Turkey scores.
Yeah. Did you?
Well, the other night, I guess.
We did. We lost Balogun for the Belgium match on Monday, and that's bad. That's really bad. That's really, really bad. But I think we'll be okay. Did you watch the game last night, Portugal and Croatia?
I didn't. As you can see, I've left one undisclosed location, and now I'm in a new undisclosed location. And the work that has taken up all my time this week.
So just real quick, it went 105 minutes. There was 10 minutes of extra time. Croatia was down 2-1. Portugal scored in the 84th minute or 86th minute, somewhere around there, to put them ahead 2-1. Croatia in the 102nd minute, I think, heads one in. Actually, it deflected off of a Portugal player, and they score a goal. They go back and look at the VAR system and said that they were offsides because it hit one of the Croatia players, which means it's a play on the ball. You go back and look at the replay. The Croatia player never touched that ball. And so you look at that replay, and they looked at the replay, and I think they came back and said something like the ball has a sensor in it and it determined that it hit the player. It never hit the player. You can see clear as day. So there is a lot of, look, FIFA is a corrupt ass organization. You have to push through the corruption. There's a lot of speculation that they really want Messi and Ronaldo to be around as long as possible in their last World Cup. Ronaldo became the oldest person to score a goal last night in the breakout round, or in the the round of 32, the first knockout round. So, it is what it is, but we'll see, man. Monday night, Team USA.
I'm stoked for that. But there's an interesting issue that this sort of thing brings up, and we've seen it over and over again, not only in the World Cup, but with the Major League Baseball's use of the what is it called, ABS, their checking system, where they're trying to figure out whether or not it's a ball or a strike. All of this is reliant on the machine and artificial intelligence and the answer that it spits out. What's ever in that system, it gives you the answer, this happened or this did not happen. And we kind of export the idea of objectivity onto the machine. We just say this thing is totally uncaring. It's just going to tell us the right answer, because we have this problem where we had human judges judging these sports, and then people were worried that the humans were corrupt and in on it, whether it's gambling or organized crime or influence from the outside or just human error, and we don't get the right answer. And then we have 60 angles of television coverage that we're watching the replay on over and over and over again. And so we can say, hey, that human got it wrong. And that causes so many problems that we want the machine to do it instead, because we have this idea that the machine will just get it right every time. We're going to watch this thing very closely. We have all the electronics we need. It's going to tell us exactly what happened. And now we can see that, yes, that system's fully implemented. It's probably actually pretty good at what it does. And it doesn't take away our doubt and the uncertainty and the possibility that there are outside forces affecting what the results are. And so this is something that we're actually going to have to wrestle with, because we're moving into the future that says, hey, this is how crimes are going to be adjudicated. We're going to be relying more and more heavily on the machine as we go forward. And here's your example. The whole world is seeing what it does. Does it make our lives better? Is this better than just having humans occasionally make mistakes? I don't know. I'm not suggesting I have the answer to that question, but it's something important to think about.
Yeah, that it is a great point. I mean, I think in terms of sports, I think I'm broadly okay with it, especially like balls and strikes. It's fairly accurate in that regard. There's more controversy over rules and tie goes to the runner, that kind of thing, calling them out at first. Football, did they get to the line to gain, that kind of thing. There's a human element that you need in determination. But a lot of these things, like you said, they're going to be replaced by machines here very soon. And the AI in the soccer game, it wasn't necessarily AI. They said there was a sensor in the ball that went off. So I guess that's maybe mechanical more than AI.
Well, I mean, I would still suggest, I think that there's probably some system there reading that and kind of, I don't know if there are algorithms behind that judgment. I would have to look into it. But yeah, I mean, it's just an example of we're exporting our human judgment to what we believe is an objective system, but the system cannot really be built objectively. So
one person, one vote says, hope Barry isn't here this morning to harass you, Brian, since you're talking about soccer. Last night on Sit Rep, we had a guy come in the chat and just melt down that Alpha and I were talking about soccer. And so we just ran with that as long as we absolutely could. And it was a good time. It looks like we lost Chris. You still there? Oh, we lost Chris. Or did we lose me? You never know when this happens. All right, guys, we will jump into the news. Smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. Do you guys have me or is it Chris? I got to make sure. The chat will be the arbiters here. Chris is frozen. Okay, so it is Chris. We'll get him back. In the meantime, we got a couple stories here. Fox News, McConnell was found unconscious in his home last month. His condition remains unknown. This is a big change from what we were previously told. We were just told, oh, he's hospitalized, nothing, everything's fine. Here we go. We got him back. Everything's fine. No, it turns out he actually fell and was unconscious in his home and had to be found there. And now, they've got him under RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg treatment, and just trying to keep a warm body long enough to uphold the votes in the Senate, I guess. I was saying there's a new development that McConnell was actually found unconscious in his home and not just, not just in the hospital for an undisclosed reason. So there we go. Maybe we shouldn't have 84-year-old senators.
And that's it. I mean, you can feel bad for him on a human level if he's suffering through health problems, but we've seen this a number of times with McConnell over these last few years. And, I believe that elections are fake. And so the people who are in office at this point, or are displayed as in office at this point, are there for a reason that is unrelated to the people to their constituents wanting them to be there. And it seems like a number of them are being kept in office until it's shown to the nation how totally, and this is, again, you can be sensitive about the health issues. Mitch McConnell is not able to competently execute the duties of his office, just like Dianne Feinstein wasn't. And you can make that case for a number of other politicians that we've seen over the last decade. That's an important realization for the American people. And the idea that a man in this condition has that level of power, and I know he's not leader anymore, but there's still a lot of influence flowing from Mitch McConnell. And I know Nancy Pelosi's being replaced this year, but she's still been operating as Speaker Emerita over the last, 4 years since that would have been midterms of 2022. Yeah, early 2023. So she's 3.5 years into this new made up position that just allows her to retain her power while she's not even speaker. So we're at a very weird thing with the illegitimate Congress and Senate, and this on display is pretty crazy.
Yeah, wait till you get to the clip I'm going to play. I'm going to steal a deranged leftist segment here at the end of the show regarding President Trump, but keep that same argument that these people are incompetent, etc. Keep that in mind as we get to that. But I do want to jump into this story because this is probably the big story of the day right here. And if you watched on Daily when we covered this story, Alpha and I nailed this. New York Post: FBI infiltrated Gavin Newsom's inner circle by convincing governor's ally to wear a wire. And this goes back to his chief of staff. That was what was her name? Middleton, I think. It's in here. Williamson. She, was rolled up on these charges for bank fraud, wire fraud, and all that stuff. And when that story broke, Alpha was on the show with me, and Alpha said they've got more on this, and they're just tickling the wire on this. And thought that was really interesting. That was his exact term that he used, tickling the wire. And now look what comes out here. It says Democrat insider Alexis Podesta, tragic last name, 45, secretly recorded conversations during the criminal probe into Newsom's then chief of staff, Dana Williamson, who pleaded guilty to federal fraud and tax charges in May, according to Williamson's attorney. The revelation that she was wearing a wire as far back as June 2024 explains why a swath of Sacramento political insiders and lobbyists were stunned to receive FBI letters last fall informing them that their phone calls had been intercepted during the investigation, despite many having little or no connection to Williamson. The disclosure comes as Newsom's, by the way, that to me right there sounds like FISA. What is it, like the second degree or third degree, whatever, FISA.
Yeah, 3 jumps, they call it.
Yeah, something like that. Hashtag you were okay with it when it was President Trump, so F off.
Yeah.
The disclosure comes as Newsom announced last month that he and his wife, as well as members of the governor's inner circle, are under federal investigation. Assembly member Josh Hoover, Republican from Folsom, said he was among those who received one of the letters, even though he had never spoken with either Williamson or Podesta. Quote, a lot of people received letters essentially informing us that there were certain periods of time where the FBI was given access to follow phone calls. I don't know how these investigations work, but it sounds like they cast a pretty broad net across the Capitol community to see what they could find. And that was an interesting statement, Chris, because you got a Republican assembly member here basically saying that they're infringing on our rights to, security and everything else. That's what he's getting out of this. Like, that's what he's getting ahead of, it sounds like, which two things leads me to believe that more of these people may be guilty of crimes that may have been inadvertently picked up on. Also, you're a member of an elected body. I don't think you should be afforded necessarily the same rights that we have as private citizens. Now, I'm not saying that we should be spying on all of them, although in their official capacity, perhaps we should. We should have more transparency. Obviously don't spy on them with their wives and their kids and all that stuff. But, communications amongst them. And that's a pretty big moment there. So I'll pause and see if you want to jump in.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, anything that has to do with really, you can't hear me right now?
You're kind of getting in and out, but you're good now.
Nothing?
You're good now.
Man, I'm sorry about this connection. I last night when there was not, I guess, internet demand in this area, Burning Bright and I were fine on Story Hour, but this is a mess. So I apologize to the audience.
Oh, you're good.
Man, I just lost my train of thought. But
spying on
oh, right. Yeah, I mean, personal privacy is very important, but when you are working on behalf of the public, it's all the public's information and they have a right to know what these conversations are. And it's so strange that we've gotten to the point where we think it's okay that all these public servants, quote unquote, are able to do all of their work in private and in a way that is totally inaccessible to the people they're representing. It should be the American people or the constituents, if it's a local community or a state or whatever, they should have insight into what their representatives are doing in government, because how else can you know if you still want them to represent you? And the whole system breaks down if that level of transparency is no longer there. So I don't know what the solution to that problem is, but it is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the whole system was set up so that we're supposed to have at least the pageantry of transparency, to steal from Mark Alon's pageantry of democracy, right? We're supposed to have the pageantry of transparency, and that's why we have, Sunshine Records, Open Records, FOIA, all that stuff, that we're supposed to be able to see what these guys are doing. Now, the idea that they're, the fact that they're getting pissed off that the FBI is looking into, kind of the shadier side of the Capitol community in Sacramento is very revealing. And at the same time, perhaps we need better transparency laws with our elected, quote unquote, elected leaders. But yeah, to jump back into the story here, it says Podesta, a longtime Democrat power broker, remains on California's State Compensation Insurance Fund board after Newsom appointed her in January of 2020. She previously served as the secretary of the California Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency and held senior positions in Governor Jerry Brown's administration. She also worked for PGE, Disney, and the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. I wonder if she was the one that was like, hey, just say I. Oh, we lost him again. We'll keep pushing. Podesta has not been charged with a crime, but her attorney has identified her as the uncharged co-conspirator described in the Williamson indictment and confirmed she has cooperated with federal investigators. Long story short, she made a deal. She cut a deal.
Yeah. When I haven't had a chance to get fully updated on this story. When did this supposedly begin?
June of 2024.
2024. Okay. That's interesting because, again, fake election period. California's elections are especially fake. I remember the recall election of Governor Newsom, and they announced the result of it, that Newsom won with like 64% of the vote or something. They announced it, like, I think even before the polling ended. And it's hard to take the idea that California's government is legitimate very seriously. And you have to wonder how long these sorts of investigations have been going on, especially with how unusual Gavin Newsom's behavior has been over these last few years. And I know he's still touted as a potential Democratic presidential candidate. Man, oh man, there is something very, very strange going on with that guy. I'm not pretending I know what it is, but the fact that this stuff has kind of been going on for years at this point, you got to wonder how much bigger the net they have cast is. I mean, this feels more like a disclosure of just like the first peek at what's going on in California rather than the totality of that story.
And again, that's what Alpha was alluding to when we first covered the Williamson part of this story. Is you put out some of this kind of quote unquote low hanging fruit, and it clearly looks like there's some sort of surveillance tap that they have, the FBI has, and hopefully it's warranted, it has a warrant and everything else. But Alpha called this, it's tickling the wire. You put out this indictment and then you see how people react, right? You catch people panicking. Hey, they're on to Williamson. They got her. What do we need to do to cover this up? Meanwhile, you're being surveilled and you don't know it. And here's the big thing, right? Like there's definitely, Chris, there's definitely implications for Newsom's presidential hopes. But there's one thing that's kind of overlooked in that article. This has huge implications for the California governor's race because Javier Becerra is directly involved. Well, his organization, his campaign was directly involved in this because the money is being laundered through his campaign. It's his campaign funds that were being laundered through this. And, again, I'm not saying that he himself is directly in there. I got a freaking bot in the chat that I got to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We don't need to know about your bowel movements. But yeah, this has some huge implications for the California governor's race. And, we'll see, because I think Podesta was running the woman Podesta, not at Podesta, was running Becerra's campaign funds and was being paid to do so while she was wearing a wire. So it's going to be interesting, man. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's jump into this story here from the New York Times. FBI assigns scores of analysts to examine election records in Georgia. Okay. The FBI is assigning an army of 260 investigative analysts to a quote unquote priority investigation related to the 2020 election in Fulton County. This effort is outlined in an internal memo obtained by the New York Times and confirmed by a person familiar with the investigation. I have a lot of people familiar with the investigation. I've not been able to confirm this yet, but I just started trying this morning and I haven't gotten any responses as of the last 2 hours. So if I get one, I will let you know in real time. The memo says that the surge is part of a quote unquote priority effort by Kash Patel. Analysts will work to complete approximately approximately 708 records checks. The type of record checked is unknown. Again, I'll try and find out more information on this. My sources on this have been, I had the FBI memo published, I think, before anybody else when this all went down, going through, not just so when they did the raid in Fulton County initially, the original SAC special agent in charge kind of gave them like this blanket, hey, give me the records if you can. By the way, I'm not going to give you a deadline. I'm not going to sign this memo. I'm not going to give you any, there's nothing more than just simply saying, hey, can we have these records? And that was not the order that was given to that SAC. The order was to give them, make an actual demand for information. But the last part here, I love this because the New York Times just gives you 2 paragraphs, Chris. They give you 2 paragraphs of quote unquote factual information. And then they spend the rest of their article just trying to disparage any claims that the 2020 election was actually stolen. And this was my favorite one. Few presidential contests in modern American history have been as thoroughly as investigated as the 2020 election. Over more than 5 years, every conspiracy theory from Mr. Trump and his allies has been investigated and debunked by election officials from both political parties and, in many cases, by members of Congress, judges, and law enforcement. Show me one. Show me one. The Maricopa audit is probably the Maricopa County audit is probably the closest you can get, and that audit would fail on its face because that truck, when it had the ballots, drove around with no chain of custody, no supervision for 6 hours before it was brought to the Senate's audit team. So, good.
The Maricopa audit, we've never actually gotten a final report from that, have we?
We did technically, but so the Maricopa audit, there was a final report that was going out, and this is just word on the street that the gentleman that wrote the report, and we all know his name, was threatened.
Joe Vaughn?
No.
Oh, okay.
That he was basically told that if you release this report, we will bury you. We won't pay you. We will run you through the legal ringer. And so he was. That's what we're told. Now I can't confirm or deny this. I have my opinions on it. I can express them. I believe it true that he was intimidated into not releasing the full report. Then we got, in Maricopa, we got the hearings where Doug Logan, Ben Cotton, all, sat for testimony and said a whole bunch of things that nobody ever, they brought in some guy to say, oh, that's not true. Well, why isn't it true? It's just not true. That's not how our system works. Oh, okay. Well, elaborate further, that kind of thing. So nothing's actually been debunked. Here's the problem, though, in Fulton County. There's no question that they're going to find significant maladministration, malfeasance, deliberate, overt cheating, I believe. But if they do find that there, is that enough to illegitimize elections throughout the country? And I was actually having this discussion. Somebody on X, Ash, jumped in and was chimed in and said, this guy said, you can't keep claiming fraud in every election. And, me and Ash are saying, well, we can't investigate every single election. It's physically impossible. We don't have the funding. We don't have the resources. We can't. And so what you can do is you can investigate enough, Fulton County, Maricopa, Wayne County. You can investigate all these places and say, this is the system. This is the evidence. This is the suggestive evidence. This is the physical evidence. When you see the same anomalies taking place somewhere else, it's now safe to assume that at best, the election's unverifiable. At worst, it's outright fraud.
Yeah.
And so
it has to be verifiable and it has to be transparent because the people are giving their power away to the state and saying that the state is allowed to rule them. The minimum responsibility for the state is to prove that the results of the elections are legitimate and unassailable. And instead, what we have is elections that cannot even be checked by the people. The people have no ability to look into elections. The idea that we should then still give our power away to the state on that basis and treat these people as our faithful representatives is absolutely insane.
Yes. And by the way, Chris, it is good to see you a free man after our trial last weekend.
Yeah, they almost had us.
Protection Act.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man, that was just such a great concept and execution by Jonathan Drake and Ash.
So
they did so well on that. And, the people, John's video, all the people who created content for it, everything involved with that, aside from us, of course, because we did absolutely nothing. That was just brilliant. I loved it.
Excuse me. I held the judge in contempt.
That's right. Yes.
I did do something. I was able to find that our judge was an election denier too.
That's a very good point. I was actually at the point where I was ready to disavow the legitimacy of the entire proceeding, but it didn't have to come to that.
I do want to highlight something just briefly real quick. And I see we're featured on Rumble now, so that's pretty cool that we're going to get some extra eyes on this. JoeHoff.com has this statement from Catherine Engelbrecht, the True the Vote here, calling for people to comment on the public comment for the USPS executive order that President Trump put out. She writes, the Postal Service has a separate, still open rulemaking process in play. The U.S. Postal Service is accepting public comments on a proposed rule to set uniform standards for mailing ballots in federal elections with the official election mail logo on ballot envelopes, intelligent mail barcodes so ballots can be tracked through the system, and a reconciliation process so the number of ballots returned can be checked against the number sent. The rulemaking is its own legal process. The agency is required. By the way, that should not be the case. Rulemaking should not be a thing. The agency is required by law to read and weigh the public comments it receives before it decides to. Oh man, yesterday was the last day. Crap. So I can't even do that now. I didn't read that it was July 2nd. I thought it was today.
Wow.
So is it still open? Let me check.
It seems like a lot of places are treating today like the holiday, the 4th of July, like day off holiday.
Crap, we failed there. All right, so that sucks because we could have probably gotten a good rush of people filling out because that has your opinion, we should have this discussion. Has your opinion on the Save America Act changed at all? Because Trump's stance on it has changed.
Why do you say that?
He's taken out the mutilization, transgender stuff.
Well, in one post, right?
No, when he spoke about it, so after the Watson decision, he's spoken about it a couple times in the Oval, and all 3 times that I've seen so far, plus the Truth Social post, he's gotten away from the transgender in sports, which is fair because the SCOTUS ruled on that. Which, by the way, how does Congress even think they have the authority to do that?
Sure.
One way or the other. And then he's taken out the mutilization part, and so I've kind of theorized that now is crunch time, and since we got the Watson decision, it is going to come down to Congress if anything is going to be done about that specific thing. And so now he's getting a little more serious about it. I think before I was with you that he was trying to either tank it deliberately with the transgender for everyone because no Democrat will vote for that, or maybe he was waiting for now to do it.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case. You have to wonder then why he put the no transgender mutilization for everyone in there in the first place when it wasn't even really part of the bill. I think that you're drawing a totally logical inference from that. If he steps back on that, maybe he's trying to push it forward without that because he really wants it to pass. And it's entirely possible that they go through with that and show us that the SAVE Act is passed, Trump signing it into law, and maybe that triggers the process of people like Mark Elias and Norm Eisen and the rest beginning to push the legal mechanisms to try to shut down that process, take this whole thing to the Supreme Court. Again, I just think that elections should be canceled until they are 100% transparent and verifiable by everybody. There's a process in place that is going to allow the American people to know that their elections are legitimate. And the other part of that is that we need the people who are in office to be removed from office. You can't be placed in a position of public trust on the basis of illegitimate elections and then just stay there because your term's not out.
I don't know. This between the Save America Act, the Fulton County expedition, expediting the Fulton County investigation. I have it on good information that if DNI releases a full report on the election, it's going to be shocking. Again, if
who's it going to shock? That's the question. Yeah, who's it going to shock? It's not going to shock you.
Well, hold on, because the source on this saying that it'll be shocking, and that's no big revelation. You can say that. I would say they know more than I do about election fraud. So I'm going to say and firsthand, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens. Again, I think we might get it today. That's just my personal opinion. Okay. That's just my personal opinion. If I was President Trump and if I was Bill Pulte, I would want this report out today so that it occupies conversation tomorrow. That's always a strategy, before a holiday to put something big out when you can have viral marketing through people, trusted sources, right? Your family or people that you can. Now it might cause some fights and we might see some escalations and that kind of thing. But yeah.
I'm with you on that. I think that would be a fine strategy. I do wonder, John's kind of gotten from one of his sources the indication that a lot of this is going to be released through the Presidential Intelligence Advisory Board and not DNI. And maybe DNI's got the stuff. I don't see an indication that that's true yet. Now, you have sources who are directly related to it. This is just my perception from the outside and what I can glean from open source. It's hard to even call it open source intelligence. It's just media reports and the rest of it. But I'm open to seeing it. However, the nation becomes convinced that this election system we have is a problem, and that this election system has allowed the American people to be exploited systematically over decades. However, that understanding comes to be, I am 100% on board with it. I just have my doubts about these individual cases because we have seen so many indications from the same orbit of people now for nearly 6 years.
All right. So let's jump into this story here. Speaking of intelligence, from the Hill, appeals court sides with intelligence officers fired for working on DEI. Federal appeals court in a 2-1 decision upheld a lower court ruling blocking the Trump admin from firing 19 career intelligence officers who had been assigned to roles involved dealing with DEIA. So we've added a letter. Remember, LGB became LGBT, became LGBTQ. We are going to move this DEI thing. It's now DEIA, and soon it will be like DEIAPQT. It's just so stupid. The Fourth Circuit, by the way, the A stands for accessibility. That is now diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. I don't know.
They should have gotten a T and a Y, and they could have made it deity.
Oh, man. All right. It says the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals found the Trump admin erred in firing officers without any chance to appeal the decision or seek reassignments to a new role. Quote, the agencies have never suggested that any of the intelligence officers engaged in workplace misconduct or that the terminations were motivated by performance concerns. Rather, the director of the CIA stated affirmatively that the decisions to terminate the intelligence officers were taken to, quote, effectuate the directives in DEIA executive order, end quote, signed by President Trump. The appeals court found the federal hiring process, quote, creates an entitlement to the rights of consideration for reassignment and internal appeal of a termination decision, end quote, and that the CIA and ODNI needed to provide due process. Now, this is my favorite here. In the dissent, Judge Paul Niemeyer argued, quote, the district courts and the majority's holding, I conclude, fail with double Fs. The unfettered discretion that Congress gave the directors. Now let's unfettered discretion that Congress gave the directors to terminate employment of agency employees precludes the employees from having any entitlement to their employment and therefore precludes a finding that they had a property interest protected by the Fifth Amendment. So with President Trump and these firings, we now are at the point in Slaughter with the Supreme Court in the Slaughter case. You can fire the board members. That's okay. But then you can't fire the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. That's not okay. You can appoint them, but you can't fire them.
Yeah.
And now with the CIA, you can hire them, but you can't fire them. So we're kind of drawing the lines in terms of the executive branch and who is untouchable and who, you know, is fair game. So, and it's not shocking that it's the CIA and DNI that are fair game or untouchable.
Yeah. It's funny. We did Independence Day last night on Badlands Story Hour, and
you guys were so hard on that movie.
I was surprised how awful it was. I didn't remember it being so awful, and I don't mean awful only as like a fun popcorn blockbuster movie. It's fine on those terms.
Yeah.
But the themes and the messaging and the execution are just horrible. But there's a scene in there where the president gets mad at the Secretary of Defense because they are divided on what choice to make. And the president just fires him on the spot. This is a summer blockbuster that's being shown to everyone. I'm sure tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people have seen this movie over the last 30 years. And that's what they've seen. The president has the authority to fire the Secretary of Defense on the spot. And that's the sort of thing that we are told is, and I get it, Secretary of Defense. But when it comes to these independent agencies, so-called, under the executive branch, we are now actually having a fight about whether or not that is acceptable. And that is.
Oh, we lost him at that is.
There you go. You lost me there for a second, but
we lost you
there
at.
For a second.
We lost you at that is.
Or not. Who knows?
Can you hear me? Chris. You back?
I'm sort of here.
All right. We lost you at that is. The culmination of your point. We literally dropped you right there.
Yeah, I guess the culmination of it is just that it was a piece of public understanding, even via pop culture 30 years ago, that the president had that type of authority. And now it's questionable.
All right. So let's throw this up here to the chat. We're going to play our soft disclosure ad. While we're doing that, do you guys want to talk about, some MK Ultra, some pop culture and Hollywood stuff? Or do you guys want to talk about, get into the Trump derangement, the ultimate of Trump derangement, one of the worst I've seen so far? I'll leave it up to you guys. I'll monitor the chat. In the meantime, let's check out the lotion detector.
Incoming call. Connection established. Ready to proceed.
Hey, Brian. This is ZP. I'm on my way.
Okay, where are you taking me?
Back to the 70s. This isn't the 70s.
Muffin, stop it.
Is that a British soldier?
Oh no! My face! It's so soft! What is this?
While we're here, we might as well have some fun.
What do you think you're doing? Hey! Ouchies!
America owes you gentlemen a debt. How may the nation repay you?
Flame of revolution, let the old world hear us roar. Freedom rides on every heartbeat, marching louder than before. From the Delaware to tomorrow, soft disclosure fans the flame. For the hands that built this nation made no cracked hands, yet raise the flame.
We rockin' Deadwood tonight. Feel the fire, let it burn.
All right, softdisclosure.com, promo code 1776 to get yourself 17.76% off through tomorrow, the 250th birthday of our great nation. And 10 out of 10 recommend the beard oil, also the lotion and the tallow bar, and the deodorant. I don't use the deodorant, but I've heard my wife does, and I've heard very good things, and she doesn't stink, so that's a good thing.
That's all you need to know, really.
Yes. That's all you need to know. As long as she doesn't stink, I'm good with it. Quick reset, and we're going to go to the MK Ultra. Actually, we're going to go to the TDS. That's what won in the chat. So quick reset, smash that thumbs up. Chris, I got to play this video.
Do it.
So we know Trump was in, and the only reason I'm playing it, I have no idea who this person is, but it's going viral. I've seen it shared on my private socials many times. It's got 50,000 likes already, which means probably millions of views. So yesterday, Trump was at, or not yesterday, a couple days ago, was at the unveiling of the Teddy Roosevelt library. All right, and they have this pretty cool AI interaction thing, like it or not. Watch this video here.
Every day, our president faces storms most people never see. Keep your nerve and remember the nation comes first. You get through. I know you know that feeling yourself.
Well, I appreciate those words. Those words are fantastic. And I just want to say it's an honor to be with you today.
By the way, you know that this is going to be a super serious take because of all the buildup he has.
Yes.
That's the nail in the coffin.
Oh, God.
Oh.
A sitting president is standing before a fucking hologram. A fucking hologram. Mesmerize. And thanks the hologram. An AI generated hologram of Franklin D. Roosevelt. And this motherfucker says, thank you so much for the kind words.
By the way, this big, bad, tough man has the powder puff girls on his neck.
No.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Also, got a neck
Franklin
tattoo.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. That's what the neck tattoo. I can't see it. I also wouldn't know what those are, but yeah, wow.
Right here. He's got 3 underaged white girls tattooed. On his neck.
Oh man.
You must be really a huge winner in the hood, man. With all
He needs to be removed from power and taken off somewhere. The old Yeller treatment.
By the way, that's a call to assassinate.
Sure is.
That's a call. The old Yeller treatment. Got bit by the hog, rabid. Go out there and shoot him and put him down. That's the old Yeller treatment.
Remember, folks, and 77 million of you motherfuckers who need your cephaluses reduced to nothing more than a pumpkin smashed by the sledgehammer of Gallagher.
What?
He has the codes to the nukes. A guy who looked at a fucking hologram and thanked it as if it was the real fucking person has the codes to the nukes. So when we say white privilege exists, and white people say white privilege doesn't exist, there you have it. If it was Joe Biden or Barack Obama, you guys would have grabbed your firearms and stormed the fucking White House, because that's how scared you bitches would have been.
So, we lost Chris again. Oh no, we lost Chris at the best part. We'll get him back. Before we get into here we go. We got him back. All right, there we go. Before we get into what this absolute low IQ individual said right there, Trump was talking to an AI, model that was designed for that type of interaction.
Sure.
You're supposed to talk to it as if it's right there in the room with you and you're having a conversation. That's the whole intent. You know, I have an article pulled up here from who's this from? I don't even know who this is cited from, but this was before the visit. New AI powered library lets people meet Theodore Roosevelt in a whole new way. It's from Microsoft. It even lets them chat with a lifelike version of himself. The Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library is designed as a quote unquote living library powered by AI. It says when a senator was introduced to the avatar in late June, the digital Roosevelt even cracked a joke. Quote, "This office is a place for people who speak the truth and for senators as well." End quote. So these people, like, they don't understand, like, this isn't like, it's supposed to be an interactive thing. You sit there, have a conversation, make the learning about all the documents that they've uploaded to Teddy Roosevelt's avatar, and have a good time. And it seemed like Roosevelt was acknowledging that he knows Trump is president, and that he's saying, you have a lot of responsibility in this office. Make sure, you know, whatever. I'll let you comment there before we get into the rest of that derangement.
So that is a hologram, though. The visual representation is a hologram. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, he said Franklin Delano Roosevelt and not Teddy Roosevelt. So if you're going to go off on how dumb and mentally unfit Donald Trump is, maybe you should get that thing right. The fact that Trump is interacting with a hologram is pretty interesting, and especially because the Trump deranged are going to make this interaction viral. Well, the good part of that is that everybody knows, hey, look at the capability of what this is. You know, there have been theories out there in various spaces on the internet that there are probably a lot more holograms doing things than any of us have ever thought. And I don't know, man, when it becomes that hard to distinguish, you got to assume that it's happening more times. If we're not able to tell one thing from the other, then we can't suggest that we know how often.
Oh man, this is not good. We gotta get Chris Starlink.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a Starlink box right there that I haven't set up. There's an internet extender. It was supposed to be here. I thought we were going to be good, but
you're good
in
now.
2 hours. In 2 hours, this problem will be fixed. And I say that now, and I'll probably be burned for it tomorrow night on DPH. But yeah, when you don't know, when you can't tell whether the normal thing is happening or this other thing is happening, if we're not able to discern that reliably every time, and we're not, I would suggest that maybe the other thing is happening a lot more than we know it. It's real easy to discern it when they tell us, hey, this is a hologram, or when the representation is of someone who lived a century ago, because we know, hey, that's not that person. But they could do that with people who are alive today, and we wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, that was one of the things at GART before the VIP, or maybe it was after. No, it was the reception. After the reception or during the reception, we were talking with General Quas, and it came up, and he just kind of alluded to. I mean, we're almost at the point where a hologram can be in the room with you, and you don't even know. Not a hologram per se, but an avatar, and it kind of made me think. I don't know if you've seen. We've always seen pictures of President Trump and videos where we're like, that just something doesn't look right with him in that regard. We saw it again. I think when Tina Peters was in the Oval Office a couple days ago and some other people were in there, that looks like his doppelganger. There's just something about that image that doesn't look like President Trump to me. I don't know how to explain it. Something more about, like, his face is a little more squished. His smile is like a little more like elongated. It's just something in that doesn't fit right. And there's no question that, throughout history, leaders have used doppelgangers, for certain events and things like that. So, it's not lost on me. I don't know if it's a mask like Joe Biden scratching the back of his neck and the skin just staying locked in place, or, the lines behind his ears, solid straight lines that don't occur in nature, whatever the case may be. But then that guy just goes, I mean, like, you got balls in this day and age to go out there and, essentially call for the president to get the old Yeller treatment, and then go on to say 77 million conservatives need to be castrated, and, the Gallagher treatment, the smashing the watermelons. Like, man, that was just a whole level of derangement right there. And
consider the information environment that these people have lived in for the last decade. They are just being fed this stuff nonstop, 24 hours a day, every day for 10 years. Like that's just a mental derangement. I don't know. A lot of these people are not going to make it back from that. And that's actually really sad. I mean, I don't know this man. I don't care about his mental state, generally speaking. But the fact that this is happening on such a widespread basis is going to be a problem. And there's got to be some sort of solution for that problem. I don't know what the come down from that is.
Well, I do.
Oh.
It is Donald J. Trump, MD.
Have you or someone you know been diagnosed with TDS? The symptoms can be relentless. Fortunately, I'm Dr. Trump, and I have a treatment plan. Let's hear what some of my patients have to say.
I have been suffering for over a decade, and after listening to Dr. Trump, I can see some results.
Man, I've been suffering for years. I really didn't believe that was help out there. That was when I came across this video on TV.
I really thought I was a lost cause. This was gonna affect me for the rest of my life. But after using the treatment plan, I can see a difference.
I really wasn't sure I could help some of these people. They were so far gone, I wasn't really sure.
I had no idea how much this was affecting my life. My work is slowed down. I'm hardly recognizable anymore. I just needed help.
I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Constantly angry. I made everyone miserable around me.
I feel like I've aged 20 years in the last 2 years. I've been so concerned. I was really starting to worry about my future.
The treatment is simple. Turn off. Fake news. Say your prayers, and if you ever feel anxious, just have a Diet Coke like me, and you're going to see a remarkable difference in your life.
By the way, Julia Roberts has not aged in like 30 years.
Yeah. That De Niro was very convincing.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, this is a perfect example. If you just gave me that out of context, especially 5 years ago, I would have been like, yeah, of course that's Robert De Niro.
Yeah. And I've always had a soft spot for Julia Roberts, even if she is a flaming liberal lunatic. Yeah. So check this out. This is along the same lines. Jodie Foster says Brad Pitt's F1 seemed like it was made by AI and written by a computer. During a Tuesday talk called Who Owns the Future of Hollywood with former Sony Picture CEO Michael Linton at the Aspen Festival of Ideas, Foster said, quote, "I don't say this despairingly. How could I? This movie went on to make millions of dollars. But I look at a movie like F1 and I'm like, F1 was made by AI, wasn't it? I mean, the structure was exactly the structure you would learn in school. The actor said the lines exactly the way it would be written if a computer was writing exactly what would be the right thing for that time. And they were able to dominate the technology to make something big and beautiful and potentially where a lot of the information comes from other places." By the way, I read that in Chris Paul's voice. That whole part right there. The structure was exactly the structure you'd learn. The actors say the lines exactly the way they would be written if a computer was writing exactly what would be the right thing for that right time. I don't know, for some reason. Foster goes on to say AI is one more giant step forward into changing the industry. The big question is it going to replace actors and writers? Asked Linton. We do replace people, Foster replied, explaining how studios save money on crowd scenes by replicating background actors. We're getting lots of jobs. We're getting rid of lots of jobs. And hopefully things like unions will be able to come in and say, hey, you can use my actor 20 times, but you're going to pay him 20 times. And I think that's fair. I mean, you know more about this than I would, but don't they sign away like the likeness and then they can pretty much use it however they want at that point?
Yeah, I had a friend a few years ago that I met up with. I hadn't seen her in years because she was a friend of mine from back in LA. And she was telling me that, and she was always trying to be an actress, but never like really made it. Like she couldn't make a career out of it. And she was telling me that she had gone in and been fully like biometrically scanned so that they could use her likeness in film scenes and commercials and whatever else. And they gave her $10,000 for it. And that is not enough. But these people are, people want the money. They need the money because they're trying to sustain themselves and support themselves. And so they'll give away their likeness for a very low figure like that. I guess not understanding that this is what is going to replace them and make them even less useful to the people making these sorts of decisions. But this is where we are now. And as far as the AI stuff goes, F1 was an okay movie. I mean, again, big blockbuster film, not a perfect movie by any means, but fairly well put together. If it's AI, okay. But we're at the point where they can be making these movies from beginning to end using little more than the machine, if you are really good at executing on that level. But still, there's like Burning Bright and I were talking about this last night. Still, there's a human creative element behind it. I could tell the AI what to do, and when it spits out the result, I still have to decide whether or not that result meets a certain standard that is just a product of my own imagination and creativity.
Do you think, because I was watching Story Hour last night, and my wife has not seen a lot of movies. Like you guys were talking about Independence Day and Armageddon. She hasn't seen either of those.
Oh wow.
Like when we first started dating, she hadn't seen Top Gun. And to me, like those are unforgivable movies as an American not to see, right? Like you start wondering, is she a Russian infiltrator or something like that? In fact, my friends used to joke with her and call her what'd they call her, Natasha or something like that. Like she's a Russian spy because she hadn't seen all these movies. Oh, and she hates Tootsie Rolls. And I'm like, how can you hate Tootsie Rolls? That's like the American Halloween candy. But the whole point in me bringing that up is movies have aged significantly well in terms of just overall production and script writing and things like that. You go back and I show my wife The Goonies, right? Or Independence Day or Rambo, any of these 80s, 90s, even the early 2000s classics, and they don't hit at all. Like they did not age well for somebody that's only been exposed to movies from, maybe 2007 on, right? And so I'm kind of wondering, like when did AI actually get involved in this process? When was there a formulation? And, Jodie Foster in that interview, I believe it was her in that interview. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's another clip we're going to play here. But talking about, the ability for people to tap into what humans desire and what is trending a certain way. I think that's been going on for a very long time. And Hollywood is the one place, especially with the intelligence control in Hollywood, that you would see that, firsthand.
Yeah. And you would expect that we learn about this technology long after it's been used by, again, the intelligence community, by Hollywood, by the military industrial complex. The fact is we are way behind the curve on the level of advancement in this technology, and it being publicly disclosed and exposed to us, and the fact that we can now tinker around with it, it kind of gives us the impression that this is the beginning of all of that. Man, I don't think that it is. I think this stuff's been around for a long time, and that we didn't recognize it because we had no frame of reference on any of it. And so for that entire period, it can just be used against us.
I think also maybe we didn't have the capability to do what it's capable of now, right? Back then it was more like guiding as opposed to making. And I think now it's making, right? Now AI can make scenes. AI can make special effects. Back then, all it could do is say, hey, put this line in the movie, it will hit at this moment, right? You run the script through and it says, this would be the more appropriate thing to say at this moment. That's my take on that.
Yeah, and that could be totally right. For decades now, we've heard in Hollywood about CGI and computer generated imagery. And was that all built out by AI, or were there just computer graphic designers the entire time doing every bit of that on their own? And I think it's probably the answer is probably some hybrid version of that has then kind of over time, the pendulum has swung more in the direction of just artificial intelligence doing that. Although is there even a line between the two?
I want to get into this clip here from I think it's Ben Swan that put this out. And before we do that, though, we have to hit another sponsor, and we're just going to kind of talk some cultural stuff from here on. That's the gist of the news. But I want to have some fun with this because we had the MK Ultra hearing. We're getting some, clips. I'm not going to watch the whole hearing, not, until after the 4th. Got too much going on. But yeah, let's go ahead and hit a sponsor real quick, guys. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part that most people miss. Crypto was created so that you could actually own and control your money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of a bank holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you are in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, and everybody has heard of crypto, but getting started still feels kind of complicated. That's exactly why we use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. You get to choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. There's no complicated setup. It connects with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank and be up and running in just minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like us directly. So do this now. Scan the QR code, click the link in the description, and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and boom, you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. All right. Let's jump into this clip talking about USAID and rap. And by the way, this is really interesting. I mean, it's stuff we've known. We've talked about this quite a bit, but I didn't know, we're actually seeing it come to kind of fruition here. Check this out.
Is USAID responsible for the rise and now decline of rap music? Because as soon as USAID gets defunded, no one listens to rap anymore. Billboard released this article that states no rap songs are in the Billboard Top 40 for the first time since 1990. First time in 35 years. It has not been the case. So think about this. This first happened in October of last year. It has recently happened again. It's now 2 cycles. No rap music in the top 40.
And actually, people were mentioning a while ago, was the first time in literally at least a decade where there were no rap songs or rap albums, whatever it was, charting in the Billboard 200 or whatever it was. Is this even a conspiracy anymore? Or can we all admit this is probably exactly what happened? I do think that USAID, amongst other probable NGOs, were astroturfing rap music, hip hop, artists like Lizzo into the music industry and our airwaves in order to mainstream hip hop culture. I think degeneracy as well. I don't think it was organic.
Again, to just correct something Lauren Chin said there, first time in 35 years it's happened. And while correlation does not always equal causation, we know that. Here are a few interesting facts to note while looking at this particular correlation. Are you familiar with the artist Jackson Pollock? He's kind of the father of abstract modern art that means nothing, right? It's squiggles and paint smears. Turns out the public didn't actually like Jackson Pollock's art as much as the CIA did. Because recently declassified CIA documents reveal, by the way, that's some of the horrible art for you, the CIA helped to fund, to purchase, and to heavily promote Jackson Pollock's art during the Cold War. Why would they do that? Well, it was a way to make America look more creative and free and culturally stronger than the Soviet Union. It wasn't just about paintings, though. It was part of a bigger plan to use art to influence how the rest of the world viewed the United States and how people within the United States viewed the United States. And then there's the Limp Bizkit Woodstock theory. Remember this? After Limp Bizkit played Break Stuff at Woodstock in 1999, the crowd erupted into chaos. The theory claims that the music industry saw the mobilizing power of angry nu metal, particularly among young white men, can't have that happen, and responded by shifting its focus away from rock and toward hip hop to drain that cultural energy. Did that happen? Okay, we don't know. Who knows? Might have happened, but we don't know. What we do know, without question, rock music of the late 90s and early 2000s vanished overnight, and the entire music industry did shift to rap and hip hop. Now, maybe it wasn't the CIA, maybe it wasn't USAID, maybe the entire society overnight changed the kind of music they listened to. And that could have happened. It might have happened. But one of the reasons cited online, think about this, for why rap has fallen out of the top 100, right? for 2 cycles is this, quote, a lull in major commercial hip hop releases since mid 2025. Really? Why is that? Well, go back and look at your calendar. USAID was completely defunded by July 1st, 2025. The first time no rap song is in the top 40 since 1990, October 2025.
All right, we can pause it right there. I think you got the gist of it. This example, this anecdotal right here, goes beyond just rap. It goes into a bunch of things. And as you know, dealing in politics the way that we do, I've seen it in elections. Elections is one that's big. And you know, I'm not going to name names, but there's some movements out there that had a whole bunch of traction, and that traction just completely went away. Well, not NGOs, because I hate using the term NGOs for a lot of these grassroots groups, but grassroots groups that said their funding completely dried up after USAID. Now, I know that these people are organic, but whoever was funding them was that USAID. And so this is a really interesting, the way you've seen, especially in the last couple of years, country music has just surged, and a lot of people are attributing that to coming back to patriotism, right, and wholesome American values and all that. But the new country sucks, first and foremost. New country music is atrocious. So is rap, though, to be fair. But I'll land that there, let you get your take.
I think that USAID is an interesting kind of catch-all. This is the avatar of the way the government operates, just funneling money to all of these organizations that pay for other things downstream. And that entire network that forms is all in pursuit of the same agenda up top. And so I think that this is a great example of that. Whether or not that's the cause of rap diminishing in the public, in the collective consciousness, I don't know whether or not that's true. There's a friend of mine pointed out a new like Christian hip hop artist the other day called Hulvey, Hulvey. And it actually does sound like kind of old Kanye West music, and the lyrics are pretty good. I haven't gone back in and tried to see what this guy's all about or anything, so I'm not kind of representing it, but I could imagine with some of the other pushes that we've seen toward the mainstreaming of a return to Christianity and Catholicism in particular, we talked about some of this last week, that there are going to be all these different channels to push that to people who have, you know, lifelong.
We lost Chris there temporarily. We'll get him back. While we're waiting to get him back. Oh,
there we go. There we are. Yeah. So I think that something new is being mainstreamed, and maybe that comes in the form of hip hop and rap music. And that would be a really interesting development. But listen, I'm not sad to see this stuff go. I listened to it in the 90s because it was being shoved down our throats in the 90s, and it was new and it was edgy and it was rebellious. It really felt like something important back then because the culture was telling us it was important, and we had a monoculture. It's not like you can just pick and choose all these varieties. Everything that MTV gave us back in the 90s was going to be huge. And so that was where rap music was. And yeah, over the last 15 years, the quality of it in the mainstream has just diminished. The rise of electronic music, these country hybrid and crossovers. I think it's important to remember watching that video that Limp Bizkit was, that was rap rock. They were one of the leaders in rap rock. It was them and, Red Hot Chili Peppers and Korn and some of these other artists back then. The second half of the 1990s going into the early 2000s, that was all rap rock. And I think that was an absolutely atrocious period for music. But to hold Limp Bizkit up as the paragon of rock and roll, no way. That's so absurd.
I liked a couple of their early $3 bill y'all songs, and that was okay. But after that, it went to complete shit. You could not listen to that whole entire album. I could not, and I was into that kind of I was more adjacent with that kind of music. Yeah. And for those that don't know, and we'll get into the MK Ultra thing here on that note, the entire hip hop rush in the 90s was all a CIA construct. That was all a construct to push crack cocaine and other drugs into black neighborhoods and urban neighborhoods and bring about that kind of degeneracy that Swan was talking about there. And the theory, there's theories out there that all of this was pushed by white and also you got the Zionist culture in there that pushed this because they had investments in prison systems and the types of things that would benefit from a degenerate culture. Tons of money went into urban housing and general welfare causes like that. The CIA obviously was making bank off of the cartels that were shipping the drugs into the country. The whole thing was a construct, and there's so many different ways you can unpack it. Ice Cube even talks about this, Ice Cube even talks about this, about the prison system conspiracy and all that. So they allude to it in Straight Outta Compton too, right? The Jewish manager that's managing Eazy-E and those guys, and they end up figuring out what he was doing. You know what I'm talking about? It makes.
I only caught the last half of that because the internet dropped for a second, but the manager for Eazy-E and like NWA and whatnot.
No, I was saying like the Zionist control, the white there, and it wasn't just Zionist, the political and white control over the industry because they were invested in prison systems and they were preying on these communities. And in order to bolster their investments, the intelligence was dealing with the cartels and everything else and making their money off of it that way. And it was just the whole thing was an extortion. And the victims in all of this were the people in those urban populations, mainly Black Americans. And that's where the rap, came about. I mean, could be wrong on that.
I also think it's weird, the cultural effect of just flooding all mainstream pop culture channels with just N-word, 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 N-word throughout every one of those songs, feeding all that music to white kids for decades on end, and then trying to punish people for saying yes, for rapping along with the songs.
Yeah,
it's such a weird, the rap thing for the last 35 years has been such a strange psyop.
They literally took a football scholarship away from a University of Florida quarterback because he lip synced it. He didn't even say it. He lip sank it on a like a TikTok, Instagram reel. Absolutely insane.
I've definitely done that. So someday maybe that'll be the nail in the coffin for me.
There was an old Kill. I think it was. No, was it Kill Kenny? No, it wasn't Kill Kenny, but it was the comedy tour he does. And this guy goes up. I played it on Y Crumbs.
Kill Tony.
Kill Tony. I'm sorry, not Kill Kenny. He gets up on stage and he says, "Dear Black people, if you don't want white people saying the N-word, stop making it the best part of your frickin' songs." And then he goes on. The joke's actually really funny. If you watch it, it goes on to talk about, well, I'll just leave it there because we're trying to turn over a slightly new leaf here, but it's a funny clip. So let's check out this MK Ultra clip, just a moment of this, and then we'll start to wrap the show up here.
MK Ultra was one of the most secret.
Woo! We don't want to hear that on one point. You guys are getting a taste into my life.
Government programs in American history. The chemist who directed it, Sidney Gottlieb, lived in total anonymity. My book, Poisoner in Chief, may be the most complete account of MK Ultra that exists in public, but I'm painfully aware that I have discovered only a small portion of what MK Ultra was and what Sidney Gottlieb did. In 1951, the CIA hired Gottlieb and directed him to launch what became MK Ultra. Gottlieb believed that in order to find a way to implant a new mind into someone's brain, you first had to find a way to destroy the mind that was in there already. In its search for ways to destroy a human mind and body, MK Ultra conducted the most extreme experiments on human beings that have ever been carried out by a US government agency. By any standard, they qualify as medical torture. These experiments took place in prisons, clinics, and safe houses in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, and even in Latin America. Officers of MK Ultra were authorized to travel to foreign countries, preferably those under formal or informal US occupation, and ask the local CIA station to provide them with expendables, human beings who would not be missed if they disappeared. Gottlieb had what amounted to a license to kill issued by the US government. Neither the number of MK Ultra victims nor the number of those who were experimented to death is known. Gottlieb, as a result of this license to kill, might have been the most powerful unknown American of the 20th century. Some information about MK Ultra spilled out during the 1970s, but senior CIA officers had intentionally let Gottlieb operate without supervision, so they were able to claim that they knew nothing about his excesses. This was a way for the CIA to deny its institutional role in MK Ultra and to portray it misleadingly as the product of one man's sadism or excessive zeal. Investigating MK Ultra is challenging because when Gottlieb and his mentor Richard Helms left the CIA in 1973, they illegally ordered that its records be destroyed. Soon afterwards, under DCI Stansfield Turner, a CIA analyst, as you pointed out, Madam Chairman, discovered a cache of MK Ultra documents hidden among financial records. Turner credited that analyst with doing a very diligent job of Sherlock Holmesing. That same diligence, I believe, could bring results today. One of the great mysteries of MK Ultra has to do with the death in 1953 of an MK Ultra scientist, Frank Olson, who had announced his intention to quit the project. His plunge from a New York hotel room was described in the press as the suicide of an Army scientist. He was not an Army scientist. He worked for the CIA.
All right, so we can kind of land that there because I think we got the gist of this guy's background. He is a New York Times writer, so take that with a grain of salt. That's always interesting when the CIA rats on the CIA. Not saying that he's necessarily CIA, but the infiltration at our major media outlets. How much of this, going back to what we were talking about with AI and the movies and Hollywood and everything else like this, I mean, there's no doubt, like anybody that would say MK Ultra was stopped in the 70s with the Warren Commission, anybody that would say that is absolutely retarded, right? Like you're fundamentally lying to yourself if you believe that MK Ultra doesn't exist through social media, through movies, through predictive music. It's just absurd to think it's gotten infinitely better, infinitely more potential or potent, excuse me. Go ahead. I'll land that there.
No, I agree with you. And it's at the point where they are able to, if it was a drug that they were putting into people's brains, a physical drug, then we're talking about a distribution system where they were kind of using these as like the lab rats and the test cases back then. And now it's just distributed to everyone. And this is, again, just like a parallel, a visualization of it. It would be like putting a drug in the water supply and everybody just gets it without even knowing that they're taking it. And so they've got this kind of mental drug that they can distribute without any physical interaction at all. And it's now just available widespread to the American public and has been for decades. And I agree, man, it's just a mass influence campaign. But this stuff has always existed. 100 years ago, the book Propaganda talked about all of these same strategies, and they didn't have the technology. They couldn't get it to everyone at once, but people were more in tune with the daily or weekly newspapers. There were still ways to get people to influence the collective consciousness. Now it's just in its kind of final form, and maybe I don't know what form it can take after this that would be any more dramatic or effective than artificial intelligence, everything coming in by the phone in your hand. Maybe once we have brain chips, it'll be even easier. Yeah, but the effectiveness of the systems that already exist is so thorough that who knows if that's even necessary, if it would even make a difference.
Yeah, the more and more we give up our individual sovereignties, the more and more we
Yeah.
become susceptible to this type of manipulation. And, I point at, yesterday with Alpha, we talked about the Facebook, when they were manipulating over 600 and almost 700,000 people that they manipulated into becoming depressed. And just think, when you do that, when you manipulate somebody to the point where they are, legitimately considering suicide as their only way out, there's a lot of people. If you can push somebody to the point of suicide, you can push somebody to the point of it's their fault, take them out on the way, right? And that's when you get a lot of these furries and the transgender violence and stuff. Hey, it's their fault that you feel like this, so do something about it and be remembered, right? You get that kind of programming. What'd you pull up here?
So this is a Netflix miniseries from 2017 called Wormwood, and it's pretty highly regarded. It was directed by Errol Morris, and this is all about that program and Frank Olson and the death of Frank Olson.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's not amazing. I watched it many years ago, but I remember it being all right. And these issues, the stories are told, and so you get kind of some background on the broad scope of things. But as with all of these things, you can kind of assume that they are attempting to manipulate the public understanding about these issues. So a grain of salt on all this stuff.
Yeah. Last thing I want to cover, and by the way, just real quick, I know yesterday I mentioned the guy that I think it was in Buffalo that shot all those people at the bowling alley. He was a National Guardsman, said that he had hearing aids and he was hearing voices and was complaining on the record about this many, many times. We heard the same thing from the guy that killed the Ukrainian woman on the train, on the subway. Right? When he came out, he was a victim. Well, not a victim. He was a resident. Let's call it a resident in prison many, many times. He'd been in prison for years and years and years, on and off, in and out. And he was saying the same thing. Man, you got to make these voices go away. Like, I'm hearing. And so you wonder, again, the expendables in society, right? The people that we can do away with. Nobody will miss them. And, and I'm not justifying what he did, but was it all his own personal intentions, right? And so you just see these kinds of things. And I think the dependency we have on pharmaceuticals, especially SSRIs and other, antidepressants and mood altering drugs like that are prescribed with very little efficacy and safety and effectiveness, efficiency testing. It's like the LSD of the 21st century, right? It allows them to manipulate you. This will be the last thing we want to cover, and this is just kind of something that me and Ghost had talked about a long time ago, and it's coming to fruition. I actually should probably go back and find the clip of this from Euronews, the Five Eyes voice in the EU. Ukraine's former commander-in-chief to run for president. This is the guy that reportedly got kicked out of Ukraine, and they shipped him off to London. And immediately I said, this guy's being groomed. He is going to come back, and he is going to be somebody powerful in Ukraine. Valery Zelensky, former commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces and now Kyiv's envoy to the UK, is reportedly willing to run in the next presidential election once the situation allows. As of early June, public trust in Zelensky. Tell me this isn't pure propaganda, Chris. Public trust in Zelensky among Ukrainians stood at 61%. We are being told Ukrainians are dying in the tens of thousands, and the president that has the power to stop it has an approval rating of 61%.
The president who didn't even face elections because he had canceled elections. And listen, maybe that's possible. Maybe the Western media is telling us something incorrect about Zelensky this entire time. But otherwise, that's pretty hard to imagine. And we are being told also that I saw some report earlier in the week. Maybe you've spent more time on this than I have, but that like Russian soldiers' lifespan was like 20 minutes. They get deployed and then 20 minutes later they're dead. I'm just like, what kind of thresher is this? We are, it's like a never ending Normandy invasion. What in the world were they talking about?
Yeah, you and I were talking about that, I think, in the chat, and that was your thing. That's a never-ending Normandy.
I don't even understand how something like that could happen. Like Russians are just such brutal military leaders that they just take all their people and they just funnel them into this just killing field all the time, and they never stop, and they never think, oh man, we should probably stop sending guys in there. What? Well, I don't know.
Well, not only that, I mean, you're talking about a country that has less people than the state of California, I believe, and they've been at this now for what, 4 years now, 3 years, 2022 February, was it 2022? Yeah,
4.5 years.
4.5 years. How are there people left in that country? You know, and the long-term detrimental impact this is going to have. I mean, this is when you're going to need migration in order to sustain Ukraine as a viable country. You're not going to have men around to, you know, to procreate. So yeah, this whole thing stinks. But now the narrative here that Zelensky is popular because of the meat grinder in Ukraine is interesting. The latest results show backing for Zelensky remains stable among politicians. The highest level of trust was recorded for the Kharkiv mayor, Ihor Terekov, at 52%, which still remains lower than Zelensky's result. So Euronews is telling you that no other politician in Ukraine is as popular as Zelensky. The only people who are popular are the military running this war. And so therefore, the only people that could beat Zelensky in an upcoming election would be the military generals that are more popular than Zelensky. Are you kind of seeing the narrative they're trying to lay down here? The seeding they're doing here. Among the military figures, a few have higher levels of trust. The head of Zelensky's office, Kyrilo Budanov, is seen as trustworthy by 70% of the respondents. That beats Zelensky by 9%. Zelensky's result is even higher at 73%, which could make him Zelensky's main rival if the elections were to take place anytime soon. Oh, I got to close out. I have Facebook open somewhere because that's where that thing was. Stand by 1 second. Let me close this out so we don't get that binging. Okay. Apologies for that. Crap. I have to change everything now. There we go. So they're trying to paint this picture in Ukraine that Zelensky is actually really, really popular. Nobody else politically is popular, but the military is even more popular than Zelensky. So keep the war going and let's bring in a military officer to lead the country. It says, quote, when Ukrainian troops, well, not quote, from the article, when Ukrainian troops moved from defense to successful pushback and liberated the Kharkiv region in a lightning counteroffensive, Zelensky's name became synonymous with bravery and determination, and his reputation gave rise to anecdotes and legends. Anyways, we can land that there. I just want to put that on the record because, if I go back and I can find it, I'll go through the transcripts. Me and Ghost talked about this and the fact that this guy was being exported to the UK, to London. He was going to be groomed. He was going to make a triumphant return, and he was going to be the Mossad, MI6, CIA, Five Eyes guy to run Ukraine in the color revolution that Putin is finally trying to end. So that there. I don't know if you have a take on that.
I haven't been following too much of the Ukraine stuff lately. It's amazing to me that we are still being told that war, quote unquote, is going.
I agree with you 100% on that. That people still actually buy into that crap. By the way, that entire article, as you're reading that article from the lens of pure propaganda meant to, seed an idea about who's going to lead that country next. fake polling, fake everything. Just remember that those are the same people that tell you that Putin totally rigs every single election over in Russia, and the people of Russia hate Vladimir Putin.
Yep.
Remember that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into some rants here. The Meerkat, Brian, there really was a rant. Meerkats don't fib or trick you into playing copyrighted stuff. And then there's the link to the video again. So we explained this last night. You did the rant before the show went live. We don't pull up the archiving thing until after the show goes live. Some people can get it. You can get it before. We just don't do it. So you left the rant before the show started, and that's why I didn't see it. I wasn't saying I distrust you. Yesterday at CN Stewart said, "Rifle in My Pants is a country song waiting to be written. Everyone who suggested a line is now in it too long to play during a show. Sit Rep Chat liked it." All right, appreciate that. I did play it last night, and then we continued it. It's pretty good. It's interesting. It's a joke on a conversation me and Alpha had yesterday. Then Meerkat, not asking for it to be played here. Just grab the link now. Enjoy later. I hope Brian heard the full song afterwards, and I did. Thank you so much. Simple Sam, so glad Trump has made billions when jobs are going down, gas is still high, and Trump media stock is in the toilet. Don't blackpill, dude. It's the 250th birthday. Dooming out on the 250th. Just wait. It'll all come around. Just wait. By the way, gas prices, you think that's Trump's fault? You think that's Trump's fault? Oil's at $68 a gallon. Okay. I posted pictures. There are places in Louisiana right now where gas is under $2 a gallon.
Is that true? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody sent me that yesterday. Because they're privy to this conversation. Texas, there's a lot of places where it's under $3 a gallon now, including the place I showed you guys on Saturday.
Yeah, that's true. But different counties, even within these states, have vastly different prices. It shouldn't be the case that in one state, gas is one price and then 50 cents more per gallon just a few hours away. But that's how it is right now. Yeah. That is very strange. And we have to understand because of that the federal layer is not the primary driver of gas prices, and that the state layer is not even the primary driver of gas prices. It goes down to local policies, different corporate policies, of course, supply and demand on the retail level. There's a lot of factors in there.
Yeah. Diana D11, ultra libs at work. We're talking about the embarrassingly low turnout at the World Fair in DC. What's up with that? Anything? Yeah, it was like 105 degrees. And it was the middle of the week. People, work and stuff. I don't know.
And that's a city that is not particularly, well, first of all, it's not at all American unless Trump has brought it back to America within the last few years. But there's not a lot of pro-American people that live there, or at least so we are led to believe by the political climate there. So who's going to go out and go to Donald Trump's celebration if you hate Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Which means everybody has to travel in. And then do you travel to Washington, D.C. for this event? I don't know.
Well, that was, kind of like the week before. Nobody wants to be there on June 30th. They want to be there on July 4th. And so, the week before is when you get most of the locals. And again, like you said, 96% Democrat, avidly anti-Trump. And so anything that takes place during this administration in terms of a celebration, they're going to be wildly against. 850,000 fireworks, by the way, that they're going to light off tomorrow. 850,000.
Wow.
The normal celebration is less than 20,000. So
850,000?
850,000.
You could have an all-out war and people wouldn't know the difference between the actual kinetic war activity and the 850,000 fireworks being set off. That's crazy.
Me and Alpha were playing around with AI last night, asking it on SitRep. Normally the fireworks show is like less than 15 minutes. And so I think we asked it, if it's 30 minutes, how many fireworks per minute would that be? And it's like 21,000 fireworks per minute. Per minute.
That's a lot.
And then there was another clip. I was going to play it, but there's a there was a clip of a woman in Massachusetts that's like, my city canceled the 4th of July. And then the mayor guy comes out after. He's like, hey, we didn't cancel the 4th of July. We just can't get any fireworks. And I'm thinking, Trump's got them all.
Right?
Trump went out and got all the fireworks. And then Alpha says the sodium nitrate train that disappeared on its way to LA. Maybe that's 300 tons or 30,000 tons of
Brian,
sodium
maybe you know this. Are there any Are there any automatic weapons that can fire 21,000 rounds per minute? That's like a hard no, right?
No, there's a couple. There's
Really?
a few that could get pretty close to that. Some of the like but I mean, you're talking huge weapons that have like a 5 foot by 5 foot box of barrels, and they just go like that. Like the most there's a video, if you look up most rounds per second, and it's like a million rounds per second. Yeah, it's an insane video.
Wow.
Yeah.
So but it's going to sound like that, but much louder, apparently.
Dude, it's crazy. It's just like, and that's it. That's all you hear. Hold on. World record most rounds per second. Let me see. Oh, well, of course, it pulls up Jerry McCulloch and the other guy that does like the insane shooting. Hold on, let me see if I can find this real quick. Here it is. Excuse me, it's 1 million rounds per minute.
1 million rounds per minute.
Okay, that's 30,000 rounds per minute. Come on, get to the million.
Whoa.
That was 1 million rounds.
What?
All right.
I see what it's saying. So it's saying that there was a limited number of rounds fired, but they were fired at that pace.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I've seen one where that thing actually does it like 1 million in a shot. But anyways, it does not look like the quote unquote national average is going to be at 240. So John wins in that regard. And what I actually intended, gas is below 240 in many places, which is what I intended.
Well, you aimed your sights high. Anything could happen in the next 24 hours. Yeah, or low. There you go.
So
CannCon, you've given us all something to aspire to, and
I will concede. I will concede, Chris. My intention was down here in Florida, so I will concede that I did lose on that because my gas is still around $3 a gallon. So I will concede defeat on that. However, depending on what side you're on, we won. Trump also, I still say that was a boop, the 250 and the California state taxes, because that's exactly what we talked about. And then last night we had the sit rep one. 10 minutes after I got done talking about slow horses and bad weather causing the 4th of July to be the 4th of July instead of the 2nd of July. 10 minutes later, Trump truths out a story about a guy who was called down to come and vote and had to ride his horse 80 miles through a raging thunderstorm. Slow horses and bad weather.
Nice job, buddy.
Nah,
I like it.
That just was probably totally coincidental that most people don't even know that the 4th of July was actually supposed to be the 2nd of July.
But how many coincidences like that do you need before it becomes mathematically impossible?
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, got anything going on for the 4th?
I don't know, man. I've just been so overwhelmed with everything else I've been doing for the last 10 days. So I'm sure that something will come together. Your guess is as good as mine.
All right. Well, I got my 24-pound brisket on the smoker since yesterday afternoon, and I got to go check that out. So, and then I got to go pick up Cam and Jackie. They're going to be here. So if you guys want to see tonight, I think they're going to be on date night with Christy and I in studio here in the studio. So if you guys want to check that out, rumble.com/CannCon And I might even have Cam on my weekend review show tomorrow morning. So we'll see what happens with all that. Chris,
Nice.
Happy 4th, man.
You too, and happy 4th to the audience. And I apologize for my poor internet connection today.
That's okay. That's okay.
We'll get that remedies. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Happy 4th of July. Stay safe. All right. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which is not much, but come back safe. All right. And enjoy 250 years of American excellence. We will see you guys later.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.